Something I talk about a lot within my coaching is this idea of the shadows. What do I mean by that? The shadows is kind of this concept that I use to explain what's really holding you back. A lot of the men that I talk to, more often than not, have these dark areas in their life that they have not illuminated, some cases forever. Some cases they don't even really know that area exists. And the most common one is like a story from their dad or a relationship with their dad that wasn't the one that they really wanted in their life, or the one that they feel is holding them back. Or maybe it might be a vice connected with alcohol, a vice connected with pornography. It might be a vice connected with sex addiction, or even drugs as well. All of these things are what I consider sitting in your shadows. Now, it doesn't have to be that far extreme. They could be something just as simple as, like in my case, being afraid to talk to people, something that was even just in my shadows and not acknowledging. And this idea of the shadows is this mechanism that I want you to kind of think about and how you radically can change your life in a big, big way. I've talked about integrity on the podcast. I've talked about this idea of a whole number being an integer within integrity. Part of that comes to the shadows, because if you think of a circle and a portion of that circle is covered up in darkness, you're not living a whole life that is fully visible. Because a whole life that's fully visible is one where you get to show up in every moment as full person to receive all the love and goodness that is in any moment of any given minute of life. But if a certain portion of your life in that circle is covered in the shadows, within that component is this idea that you're not going to be able to do some component of whatever you really want to do. You're always going to be worried subconsciously that you want to keep hiding what's in those shadows. It's almost like a computer and RAM, that your computer only has so much RAM, and RAM is like the playground for all the different things that a computer is doing. The more things you have running in the background, the less RAM you have capacity to do with what you want to do in the front ground with what you're doing in every given moment. Same thing. The more things you have running, like think spyware, malware even, in the background of your PC, the slower it runs. And so if every thought that you say, every word that you say has to be filtered through the shadows essentially and figure like, is this going to reveal? Is this not going to reveal? Is this safe? Is this not safe? All of that slows down our reaction to life. If you've ever met that kind of man that is just kind of lifeless, he doesn't have a lot of emotion. He doesn't really know how to explain emotion or even express it. He's just very kind of like statue-like. A good chance that type of man has things in his shadows that are consuming the RAM to the point where there's very little space that sits in the light that he can actually get a chance to live. Because so much of his subconscious is worried and focused on keeping everything in those shadows. So the question today is, what's in your shadows? And are you going to have the courage to bring it out of the shadows? And just like limiting beliefs, these things that sit in the shadows are not always something that instantaneously will go away the moment we bring it into the light. Sometimes it flies right back in. But the process of continuing to bring it out lessens its power it has on you and strengthens your ability to move forward with the more whole life in the light. Again, focus on those shadows. Acknowledge what could be there, because it's those shadows that are really holding you back. I'll be back again with you guys on Monday.